Hello, this is Watch All About, and in this review we're looking at a watch by James McCabe. Now I haven't actually reviewed a James McCabe itself, but it is part of a group which owns Aviate and Thomas Earnshaw, to mention a couple. So in a way, it's quite a similar watch to those kind of watches, but obviously a separate brand. So still quite British focused. So we'll have a look at it. It's called the Heritage Automatic 2 24-hour. So it is quite a long name. And we'll go through it, and see if it's any good. So the price is 280 British pounds. Now that's not actually that bad at first glance. I mean, it has got a decent automatic movement. So let's go through and see if it is actually decent value for money. So let's talk about the specs. So it has a diameter of 39.5 mil. The height is 12 mil and a lug to lug length of 45 mil. So if I just, it comes on a butterfly clasp, as you can see. If I just get this loaded up, I can put it on and show you. So I have it on the third point. Okay, so I've got a 7.25 inch wrist. As you can see, it fits me very nicely. I think the 39.5 mil diameter is actually a really nice size, because you don't see it too often. Usually it's either full 40 or 42 or 38. So I think this is a really nice size, especially for, obviously it's a classic smart dress watch. So I think the size in itself is very nice. It works well with a shirt as well. As you can see, my cuff is quite comfortable next to it. So the height, 12 mils of fairly average height. So that sits quite nicely on top of the wrist. The weight, 72 grams. So it's not crazy lightweight, but it's got a little bit of weight to allow you to notice it's there. It feels fairly good quality. Obviously, it's a leather strap, so it's never going to be as heavy as a watch with a stainless steel bracelet. But it's quite nice to wear. Other specs include 50 meters or 5 atmospheres water resistance. We have a 20 mil lug width, which tapers down to 18 mil at the buckle, and we have a 2-year warranty as well. The movement is a Miyota, so it's a fairly reliable, decent one. It's the 8215. And using my Lepsy watch scope, I have tracked it and measured it, and it's an amazing 0.2 seconds a day out. Obviously, the Lepsy watch scope isn't perfectly accurate, but it's accurate enough to get an idea of how accurate a watch movement is, and that's pretty outstanding, really. Miyotas tend to come out of the factory fairly well regulated, but it's obvious that this must have gone through another level of regulation, because that is quite excellent. Okay, so we'll start off with just discussing each section in detail. So the dial, I will admit that when I first saw the pictures, I wasn't too bothered by it. I wasn't too enamoured with it, mainly because of the amount of gold, yellow gold. I'm not that fussed about that kind of thing. I find it a little bit blingy, yellow gold, personally. But I was actually quite surprised when I opened the watch box how nice I like it. And I've worn it a good few times, and I have surprised myself that I have been pleasantly surprised and enjoyed wearing it, enjoyed looking at it. So, that's quite unusual. We have a number of textures, a number of different applied elements going on here, so it is quite nicely put together. We have all of our applied hour markers, batons, apart from 12 and 6, where we have the Roman numerals. We'll have a look in closer detail with the macro lens, but they're all very nicely done. We also have this applied ring around both of the sub-dials, so we have a running seconds hand here and a 24-hour indicator at 9. And then below that we have this like linear bobbly texture to the centre as well. So yeah, it's surprisingly nice. As I mentioned before, I wasn't expecting to like it quite as much, but actually seeing it in the flesh, it's been quite pleasant. It's like a nice off-white, like quite a classy champagne-y colour, so I think that helps soften the colour of the gold, to be honest. It says here, assembled in the UK. Now, I'm not entirely sure that that is true. I actually think that's a little bit of a fib. Might have to investigate that further, but it's quite interesting, that they've added that. All the printing though is very nice. It's good that these two bits on the bobbly linear pattern have got their own flat applied bits, so that the printing is nice and neat on top of it. If we just look a little bit closer, you can see there's a slight texture sunburst effect to those subdials as well. We can have a look at that in closer detail with the macro lens. Okay, so moving on to the case. Now, I was sort of expecting it to look quite cheap and tacky, a bit chromy almost, but I've actually been really impressed with it. It's fully polished, so as you can see, it is very reflective. But the general finishing and quality of the case machining is very good. You can see we have a crystal with quite a big curve on it. Unfortunately, it's a mineral crystal. Obviously, a sapphire crystal would have been perfect, but we don't have that, so that's something to keep in mind. But just the general finish to it is flawless, and it has a decent mirror polished finish to it. So yeah, quite impressed by that. And we have James McCabe logo lightly engraved on the side there, which is another nice touch. Moving on to our screw and case back. Actually, now let's talk about the crown next. Makes more sense. Just a push-pull crown. I get it in focus. With the JM logo, again quite lightly engraved on the end there. But it does it's a nice flat onion kind of shape. Gives you decent grip to be able to wind the watch, and also to pull it out to adjust it as well. So moving on to the case back. Screw in, we have these various specifics dotted around the outside of the exhibition window, which are nicely engraved. We have our movement as well, the Miyota 8215, with its incredible accuracy at 0.2 seconds a day. I really like the customized rotor as well. So as you can see, the JM logo is actually cut out, and then we have automatic and 21 joules sort of engraved into it. But yeah, that's a really nice touch. A bit of, let's see if I can get, you can see, there we go, you can see the JM cut out a bit better there. So I mean, Miyota's never particularly good looking, so it's good that they've put on a custom rotor, especially being that the rotor that comes with this movement in particularly is very ugly. So that's a really nice addition at this price of £280. Moving on to the strap. Decent black leather strap, very comfortable, good quality. We have some print work there on the underside. Very surprisingly supple actually. And we have a butterfly clasp, which again is highly polished, yellow gold, with the James McCabe logo engraved on the top bar there, so nice and easy to use. If you do wear it for a long time, as is the case with any butterfly clasp really, that does tend to dig in a little bit, so just keep that in mind. Okay, so let's get the macro lens on and we'll have a look at it in much closer detail. So starting with the dial, we can see our logo printed there with our sort of linear finish backdrop. More print work there, and then at the bottom, assembled in the UK. We can see the silvery champagne-y colour to the dial as well. Very nice and quite elegant. Interestingly, you can't usually notice it, but around the outside where the minute track is, we have a very cheeky concentric circular pattern around it as well, so that's a nice touch. We then have our applied hour markers, nice and thick, so we have nice pitched buttons, and then our numerals are decent, well applied as well. So moving on to our subdials, so that's not really visible from the naked eye, that concentric circular pattern, but it's nice to see that they've done that. And then obviously our yellow gold borders to them as well, and our standard hands. Moving on to the main hands, a nice gentle pitch to them, nice design as well, very, you know, classic old school kind of style with the hollow disc towards the end. Nice design and well executed as well. So moving on to the case. So this is the side with James McCabe, you know, reasonably deeply engraved, as you can see there, well finished as well. So this top corner, which is classed as the bezel, nice sharp edges to it. Our lugs as well, just generally nicely finished. It does, because it's so highly polished, it does pick up fingerprints like a beast. There's our, unfortunately this is just laser etching, which is a little bit disappointing. You would have preferred, I would have much preferred that to be properly engraved, so it's a shame that they've bottled out there. And then our crown, quite simple affair there. Moving on to the case back. So we have our details lightly engraved. And then moving on to our movement. Nice custom rotor there. And then move over this side, we can see some of the work there. And if I can wiggle that around, you can see there, ticking away nicely, looking fairly clean as well. So there we have it. Moving on to the strap. Here's the top. And then the underside, we have this printing, stamping, should I say. And then just moving on to the butterfly clasp. Here's the top bar, nicely finished, and the logo well engraved into it. And just looking at the underside, here's the cheeky section with the buttons as well. Nice tiny little springs in there, which are quite interesting to see. So there we have it. Okay. So as much as I don't necessarily want to admit it, I have actually really enjoyed this watch, surprisingly so. The finishing is all, you know, keeping in mind the price of £280, the finishing is all very good. The design is pretty nice as well. I'm actually pleasantly attracted to the gold as well, which I never thought I would be. So that maybe that's something in mind if you're thinking about it and you don't particularly like gold. It might be the same for you as well. But yeah, just the general finishing of it is much better than I expected. It's certainly a better finished watch than Thomas Earnshaw watches tend to be. So that's quite interesting, because I would have thought they would have been exactly the same, but I've actually found this one to be slightly higher quality in finishing. Movement's pretty cool as well with the custom rotor. That's a nice touch. The only negative really is that it's got a mineral crystal instead of a sapphire crystal, but we can't pick, you know, we can't have everything, unfortunately. I wish it was easier to have everything. So, you know, and you never know, all of these brands which belong to, it's called Dartmouth brands, they all have a lot of sales, so you never know. Despite it still being a relatively good price at £280, you may even be able to find it in a sale or a slightly cheaper price, in which case I would say it's a very good buy. So even at the full price of £280, I'm pretty chuffed with it. I'm pretty impressed with it. So yeah, this was the James McCabe Heritage Automatic 2 24-hour, and that's what she's all about.